guys? Welcome back to the Football Corner Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremiah Queen, and this is your first time on the YouTube channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date when new videos drop on the channel. Also, you listen to me on a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even Spotify. Go subscribe to the podcast. It'll be greatly appreciated. Now, let's get started. I'm excited because we're past 16 weeks of football. We got 2 weeks left, 2 games left, Week 17, Week 18. And let's recap what we saw in Week 16. First off, let's talk about a battle of the Titans. And that will be the Ravens and the 49ers. A game that featured both the number one seeds in their respective conferences. You had an MVP candidate in Brock Purdy. You had an MVP candidate in Lamar Jackson. I understand Lamar Jackson's numbers are not the best of his career, or they're just not outstanding, and they're not just top. They're a little middle of the pack. But one thing I took away from this game, other than like, the Ravens are a really good team, and their defense is very physical, and they're very dominant, and it's going to be hard for anybody to beat them, is that the Ravens could go all the way. You remember in my last podcast episode, I talked about how the last time Lamar Jackson played the 49ers was in 2019 when he had the number one seed, right? And they're the best team in football, and he ended up winning be a unanimous MVP. Now, in that game, they were able to run the ball efficiently, and it was, if you remember the game, it was a downpour. He was able to run the ball efficiently, but Lamar Jackson was not as precise of a passer as he is now. And everybody could say, well, he's completed 66% of his passes. He led the league in passing touchdowns with 36. I get all that. He was top 5 in QBR, top 5 in passer rating. That's all well and good. But if you look at Lamar Jackson today, and this is what that 2019 Ravens team didn't go far because they were too immature and too young. They were a high-power offense who had a very opportunistic defense, but they couldn't go all the way because of the lack of maturity on that team. This Baltimore Ravens team is mature, and they know what they want to do. This is why I'm not afraid of them getting a number one seed. In the past, Baltimore Ravens teams with Lamar Jackson, I wanted him to be able to get that wild card round and under his belt because I wanted him to be able to play a few games to warm up to the big game in the playoffs. This team, I don't think they're going to be rusty. I don't think because if you look at the way Lamar Jackson plays, and this is why he's so deadly, he doesn't want to run immediately. Ask the Niners. If you watch the Niners, the way they played him, they would play for him for the run, and he kept throwing the ball over their heads at the line of scrimmage when he was breaking outside the pocket. And then on one run in particular, they thought he was going to do it again, and everybody dropped back into coverage. And what did he do? I believe it was like a 30-19, 30-18. He ran for the ball for 30 yards because they were so hell bent on playing contain against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, they forgot what they needed to do. And that this defense, their number one defense, they got 5 takeaways, 4 interceptions off Brock Purdy, 1 interception off of Sam Darnold. They made Brock Purdy look pedestrian, and it's understandable. This Baltimore Ravens team is 12-3, and they get to play the Dolphins in Week 17. But this team is going to be a tough out for anybody contending in the AFC. And let's transition to the other team that play on Monday Night Football, and that will be the 49ers. And the 49ers are still a good team. Anybody who tells you they're not a good team, they don't know football at all. And Brock Purdy is still a top-tier quarterback in that conference. The problem is that you can see what you have to do to get Brock Purdy uncomfortable. He threw 4 interceptions. One interception was just horrible. The second one, there was great pressure on the outside. And 2 other interceptions were just great plays by a defense. Now Brock Purdy is now dealing with an injury, and this is what if you're a 49ers fan, this is something you don't really want to hear, but it don't seem like it's going to be something too serious. If worst case scenario, you really don't even have to play Brock Purdy the last 2 games of the season if you feel that confident Sam Darnold could get the job done. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because if you look at the 49ers teams of the past with Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan's coaching career, he has always had good offenses, always had good skill positions, but the one thing we always questioned was, is the quarterback good enough to take this team over the hump? You go back to when he was with the Texans, you go back to when he had Matt Ryan with the Falcons, and now with Jimmy G and company with the 49ers. The 49ers is a good team, don't get me wrong. And if you look at him against NFC opponents, the 49ers are 10-1. Yeah, 10-1 this season. That's how dominant they are in their conference. This is why I believe the Niners are still going to get the number one seed, unless they just lose the last two games, which I don't think is going to happen. The Eagles will be trying to compete for them for the number one seed, and so would the Lions. But the Lions get to play the Cowboys in Week 17, so that's something else to be said later on in the future. But I do believe in the Niners' ability to shake this off. You got out physical. Someone did what you did to other opponents. The Niners got a taste of their own medicine and the Ravens, but luckily they don't have to play the Ravens again unless they meet them in the Super Bowl. Now, the second thing on the agenda is the Kansas City Chiefs. I told the Chiefs in previous podcast episodes, how can you fix their problems? Their problems is very difficult to fix because, number one, their offense looks very stale. They finally got Kadarius Toney off the lineup because he was a liability on this offense. And another guy who's a liability and no one's want to talk about is Travis Kelce. And everybody's going to take the Taylor Swift as being an attraction. I don't believe in that. But I do believe that Travis Kelce is not playing good football. And Mahomes, one thing with Mahomes throughout any struggles he had, especially last season with receivers or weapons, he always had a safety blanket in Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce is not the safety blanket that we knew he could be in the previous years of Mahomes playing with the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs have no chance to get the number one seed. When they lost against the Raiders, that was out the window. Now the Chiefs they have to worry about them not getting number one seed. I mean, you have to worry about them not getting the division. They're 9-6. And if they lose the next two games, the Raiders win the next two games, the Raiders will win the division, and we don't even know the Chiefs actually will make the wild card round. The Chiefs have to win their next two opponents. It is crucial they do so because the Chiefs need to have at least a home playoff game. As of now, the Chiefs are the number 3 seed, and they'll be playing the Buffalo Bills. And I'm pretty sure the Buffalo Bills will be favored in that game because of how well the Buffalo Bills have been playing football. Now, with all that being said, Kansas City Chiefs, do you still want to play them in the playoffs? I don't know. Do I think the Buffalo Bills can still beat them? I alluded to. I do think the Buffalo Bills can beat them. Now, if you're Andy Reid and you're Pat Mahomes, you have to come together in the next 2 weeks and find your offense. You got 2 weeks to do so because the playoffs will be here before they know it. And I don't think they'll be able to compete this year in the AFC. So the next thing we should be talking about is the Cowboys and Dolphins, the game that the people expected the Cowboys to win because the Cowboys have played really good football this season, and the Dolphins have not been able to beat a team with a winning record. Now the Dolphins can get that monkey off their back, and the Dolphins are trying to get that number 1 seed, so all the teams, the players will have to go through Miami. The next game is against the Ravens, and this game is going to be very difficult because the Ravens are very physical and they're a very good defense. But a Tua Tagovailoa has been playing lights out football. Yeah, I know we had Tyreek Hill. I know he has 2 1,000-yard receivers. He had a 1,000-yard rusher, and this offense is one of the greatest offenses we have seen in NFL history. But I think Tua should get some flowers about how well he's been playing football. The narrative in the offseason was that Tua was not going to be able to can Tua stay healthy, and can Tua take this team over the hump. We saw what happened last year when Tua got injured, and this team was still able to go to the playoffs, but they needed him in that playoff game against the Bills. I really do like what I'm seeing from Tua Tagovailoa. I like what I see from this offense. Even though this team, I call this team fraudulent, you could be a fraudulent team, but you still could have possibilities of changing that tune when it comes playoff time. And them being the Cowboys could be a sign of them getting ready for playoff football because the Cowboys are a playoff team because they have a clinched the playoff berth. Even though they won't play them unless they play them in the Super Bowl, the Miami Dolphins needed this win so badly for their confidence. They actually might lose against the Baltimore Ravens. It's okay. If they lose against the Baltimore Ravens will receive the number 1 seed, and that's fine. But the Dolphins, the next 2 biggest opponents are the next 2 weeks, the Ravens and the Bills. And then we transition to the Cowboys. I really do like what the Cowboys put on display. I think Dak Prescott did what he had to do when the game was on line and they needed him to make a play. He got them a touchdown. Now, unfortunately, the defense gave up so much yardage on the ground, and they gave up a big play to Tyreek Hill for the Dolphins to get back in the field goal range, and you didn't give your offense a chance to get the ball back. I really do like what I see from the Cowboys, even if they don't get that division, they don't become the division leader, so they won't be able to get the number 2 or number 3 seed. Or I do believe being the 5th seed, they will be able to play the Buccaneers or maybe the Falcons, either or. But the Buccaneers have a really good chance clinching that division if they beat the Saints in Week 17. So look out for that one. I think the Cowboys believe they can go on the road and win games. It's unfortunate because the Cowboys had an opportunity of getting the number 2 seed if they just won their last 2 games. And they lost to 2 opponents in the AFC East, and that was the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. I still believe in the Cowboys, but the Cowboys are making it harder for themselves when it comes to playoff time. Thank you for listening and watching the Football Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, hit that like button, click the subscribe button, and click the notification bell so you can stay up to date when new videos drop on the channel. Also, if you want to see more content I do outside the channel, you can follow me on my social media pages at the Football Corner podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for watching and listening. See you next time.